Good morning, it's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash that subscribe button and please smash that like button for more awesome watch content. I've got with me today, this is a full review of a Casio G-Shock G-Steel watch. This is the GST-B300S-1AER. It's actually the 1AER because it's for the European market. And this is a tough solar, so it charges off sunlight or fluorescent light. Ani digital, because you've got two different types of interfaces there. 200 meter water resist, as are the vast majority of G-Shocks. Super tough, durable, resin band, stainless steel head and case. Sports watch. So let's start with the basics. Now, well, this is actually a 2020 model, I believe. They released this during the COVID pandemic, from what I can understand. The Casio GST-B line, or from the B100. B100 was released about 3 or 4 years ago. That's even bigger than this one. That one is about 58 mil. When you take in the overhang of the button crown guards and that, it's a massive watch. They do all these watches, all this G-Steel line. They do the vast majority of them, as far as I'm aware, on both a resin and on a plastic strap and on a bracelet, a metal bracelet. The bracelets are really good. They're really comfortable. But these watches are big, beefy watches. They're 50 mil diameter. So starting with, now I've actually had every single B model, so the B100, 200, and this is the 300, but they've just released a B400 model, and I'm going to talk about that at the end, and I am going to pick it up. But anyway, let's start with the specs. So the size, so I've measured the bezel to be about 46, 47. The bezel diameter. Overall diameter is more like 50. The thickness, now this is an interesting one. The thickness of this model is actually about 15.5 millimeter. And on this model, the mineral crystal, because it won't be sapphire, but I think they do put a special coating on it. So it's not just a standard mineral crystal. It is super tough. I've never really scratched any G-Shocks or smashed any. In fact, I've never smashed a G-Shock. The actual crystal, I've obviously damaged and scratched all the case and stuff. Yeah, this one is 15.5 mil thick, and the crystal is flush, or is more or less flush with the bezel. Now on this one, which is an older model from about three years ago, which is one of my favourites. This is also about 15.2 mil thick, but on this one, the crystal is not flush with the bezel. It's about 2 mil below it, or 1.5 mil below it, which gives it a slightly thinner feel. Now, so this is quite a thick, chunky model, but it is, the case is not it doesn't span out too far at the lugs, so it still fits pretty good on the wrist. My only criticism would be that it is too thick, basically, in that regard. But we'll talk about that at the end, because the B400 is thinner. Let's talk about so the sizing is okay. You have to have a big wrist. I have 7.5 inch wrists, or 7.25 inches. I can pull them off, but generally I wouldn't suggest anyone with 6 inch wrists to wear these watches, because they are big. Now the dial is a sports dial. It's not a jet black dial. It is kind of like a super dark grey. You obviously have a sub LED window at the back, which you can do the various modes. You know, you've got all the standard stuff: alarm, timer, world time, all that type of stuff that you get with the standard G-Shocks, which I will never use or very rarely use because I've got an alarm on my phone and all that stuff. So, and then you have this kind of wheel at the bottom, which gives you the solar charge, the battery charge, because inside this watch is a solar battery that recharges with the fluorescent or with sunlight. Now, I know people that have had them, not this watch, but I know people that have had Casio Tough Solar watches that have lasted over 10 years. Like I know someone who's got a 12-year-old or 13-year-old Tough Solar watch, and it's still going strong. He's never replaced the battery. Now that's pretty incredible. So what I'm saying is, I believe you can get between 5 and 15 years. Maybe 15's pushing it, but you can get over 5 years with these batteries and never have to change them. You probably get something more like 8 to 10. So as long as you keep it charged up, which is fantastic, and you can always change the battery. You can get it changed if it did fail in years' time, you could get it changed. Which is why when you go to a Tough Solar watch or any, because I think Citizen do their version of it, you never want to go back to a battery watch changing it every 2 or 3 years. It's just annoying. When you have a watch that will charge up without the, without having to constantly replace batteries, it's miles better. Trust me. Now, the dial, I believe, is a great sports dial. It's not too childish. I believe the B200 dial, at least on the band, looks a little bit too gimmicky to me. But the B300 is back to a kind of a more professional looking, if you get what I'm saying. Now, the hands do not have, sorry, the hands do have luminescence on them. They have a Neo Bright, I believe. But for some reason, they've not put the Neo Bright on the indices. Even the outer ring indices there, 12 o'clock, all these little, they've not put Neo Bright on them. So at night, if you was to put the lume on, you can only see it on the hands, which is disappointing. On this model, the lume, you can't really see this now, but the lume is on that back ring there of indices. It's on the outer ring. So that is definitely a downside. I don't know why they've not done that. I mean, I would definitely prefer it. And personally, I'm going to say this personally, I'm going to say that I would prefer it if the indices were white and the 12 o'clock was white, because it makes it much more legible. Having them a kind of silvery grey is difficult to read. But overall, I do quite like the dial. I just don't fully like the indices and the Neo Bright lume. But if you can see here clearly that the sub dial, the LCD dial, whatever you call it, that is legible, even though it's a negative dial. It is clearly legible. Now, would that be the case at night time? Probably not. But the light, as you can clearly see, lights both the analog and the digital dial up. So I like the dial. The bezel is obviously a stainless steel, rugged, 6-screw dial. Bezel, sorry, not dial. This one does not have the patterns on it. Obviously, this one does have the pattern. Personally, do I prefer? I like both. Both very, very good. One thing I will say is that the pattern ones show scratches a lot less. These will show marks a lot more than the pattern ones, because of the nature of what it is. So I like the dial. It is a sporty look. It's not a dressy look. It's a sports watch. You could take this running, swimming, gym, smash it everywhere, do what you want with it. It's super rugged. It's got this carbon car fibre design where they've basically wedged some carbon fibre in here to give extra durability. That's quoting Casio. Obviously, I can't test that. All I know is that one thing I will say is, and I've bought G-Shocks for years and years. The first watch I ever had off my dad was a G-Shock 20 years ago, whatever it was. And one thing I will say is that I don't know a single company in the world. In fact, I'm I'll say it, there is no other company in the world that make watches for this kind of quality and features as Casio do for the price point. Literally, there is no other company making watches like this for the price point that has all the features, the tough solar, the Bluetooth where you can connect to your phone, does all that, and has the ruggedness to be able to be, you know, put through all the elements and come out alive and not fail on you. No one else does that like Casio for the price. The price that I paid for this watch, I got it in a super good deal. I only paid 170 quid. But the real RRP, the MSRP, I believe is more like 250 quid, if not more. I got a deal, so, you know, that's not the MSRP. So don't expect to be able to buy it like that. But it is worth up to 300 quid, I would say. It is. For what you get with a watch, it is worth it. Okay, so let's talk about now. Let's talk about, so obviously you've got all the buttons and the features. I won't show you the modes and stuff. Because I'll never use half of these anyway. Or you can pair it up to your phone, but I'm not going to show you that now. You can pair it up to your phone basically, and obviously it will synchronize with the time, which is a good thing, but I never put Bluetooth on my phone, and I never do it because it eats the battery on my phone. Whether the technology will change or the batteries get much better in phones, and I've got an S21 Ultra coming soon, I don't know, but I will never put Bluetooth on because if it burns the battery. So for me, I would prefer the watch to have multiband, as I've mentioned previously. I believe that multiband watches, if you live in one of the 6 or however many countries, I think it's 6, China, Germany, UK, Japan, America. Yeah, I think it's 6 countries that have the multiband functionality, which means it will connect with the radio wave signal and synchronize time perfectly, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So you can have perfect time with a multiband watch. You can also have perfect time with a synchronized to your phone time Bluetooth watch if you turn the Bluetooth on. I won't turn it on. So I will just personally just either change it manually once a month or connect it once a month to get the perfect time. Obviously, it's a quartz, so inside, ultimately, it will lose a few seconds a month. I believe 15 seconds, give or take, if it's not synchronized. Now then, let's talk about the case back. The case back is a stainless steel case back. You've got some nice writing on there. You know, you've got all the stuff that, you know, the model, Bluetooth, CE marking, carbon cork guard structure, and tough solar. Yeah, so you've got everything you want there, really, and that is screwed down if you want to release that to get into the tough solar battery. Let's talk about the band. So first of all, in the band, they have these quick release pins, triggers. So if you flick that trigger back, you can release the pin and quickly remove the band. The band is a kind of resiny plastic. It's a really tough plastic. You could say that's a benefit. You could also say that's a downside. It won't be as comfortable, depending on what you define as comfortable. I define a watch as comfortable if it stays in position and doesn't wiggle around too much, but is not too tight on my wrist. Now, with this watch, the problem I have with this watch on a band is that it is a little bit too top heavy for me because it's 15.5mm thick. Let's put it on. It's a little bit too top heavy, but it's still a comfortable watch. The band is comfortable. It's rugged and it is tough, and it's not super supple, but it is comfortable. But the issue I have is the thickness of the watch on a band. So what I believe, for me personally, I would prefer this on a bracelet, and I probably will pick it up on a bracelet. But it is fine on a band and it looks really good. You've got the contrast between the stainless steel top and the black band. It does have a sporty, nice look. You know, it'd be a great holiday watch. The buckle has these kind of a two lock design. I do prefer this to the single one generally. So yeah, I'm gonna get the bracelet for it, but it is okay on a band. I can't complain about that. It is fine on a band. It's just that because it's 15.5mm thick, it's a little bit too thick. So overall, where do I rate this watch? It's a good effort. The main issue for me is the thickness. That's the main issue. And the Neo Bright hasn't been applied properly, from what I can see. But if they can knock this down to 13mm, you know, knock 2mm off this, or 2 or 3mm off it, it'd be fantastic. Now then, they've actually kind of done that already. They've actually done it this year. So they've released this year a B400, which I'm picking up. I'm going to pick it up in the bracelet and on the band. Well, I'm going to pick it up on the bracelet and then get the band for it. And that is only 12.9mm nominal from top to bottom, which takes off to over nearly 3mm off this watch, like 2.5mm, which is brilliant. And it means it will not be too top heavy. And generally, although I like the comfort of the bracelet of these watches, and I've not tried this watch on a bracelet yet, but I've tried this one obviously. The issue is because of the thickness and the bulkiness, the 50-odd mm of them, the size, they after 8 hours they become a little bit uncomfortable. Whereas this one might not do because it's got a slimmer, it's got a kind of more narrowed lugs. You know, it's got a more case profile that's a bit more slim down. So ultimately, I would prefer this on a bracelet, but you're adding weight. This is probably about 90 grams without the bracelet. On a bracelet, it's going to be, I don't know, 180 grams, something like 185 grams, something like that. So, but I still think it would be better for my personal taste, but your personal taste may completely differ. It's comfortable on the band, you can keep it on that. So overall, for what you're getting with this watch, tough solar, Bluetooth, amazing durability, which I've not tested, but I'm going to give it to Casio because we know that they're extremely durable. We know that. There's loads of other YouTubers that have smashed them and done everything with them. And they are. You're getting all the modality, you know, the functionality and all that. You're getting, it looks good. For up to 250 quid, up to 300 quid, I think it is worth it. You could easily have this as a daily beta watch, easily. It's a great all-round watch. So it's another decent win for Casio. Just quickly in regards to the B100, against the B100, I would pick this because the B100 for me is way too big. It's much bigger than this. So this is comfier. Against the B200 on the band, the B200 is comfier because it's lighter and smaller and thinner, I believe, slightly. But it looks worse, in my opinion, than this one. This looks more adulty, in my opinion. Against the B400, I've not got the B400 yet, so I can't compare it, but the B400 we know is thinner. Whether it looks as good is subjective, but it is thinner, and I'm going to pick it up soon. Okay, thanks for checking my channel out. Please smash that subscribe button, please hit the like button. Loads of more awesome watch content coming up. Have a great day. Cheers.